Now I'm not muted. Hi, everybody. I'm Kyle Kelly, and I'm the Girdwood Service Area Manager. I probably know a lot of you from around town for the last many years. And we really are appreciative of you coming out tonight and partaking in the Girdwood Trails Plan. There has been a dedicated group of your neighbors who have partaken in the committee to put this together tonight, and they're eager to hear your feedback on the work that they have done and your ideas for the future of trails and natural spaces here in Girdwood. And so Holly's going to lead us through it tonight along the way. And as I said, I really appreciate having you partaking in it and giving us your input. This is going to be huge for us. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much. My name is Holly Spoth Torres. I have a very small Anchorage-based landscape architecture and community engagement firm. And I'm working with the committee and the Girdwood Trails Committee and Kyle on this project. The next 2 hours of your life are going to include the following. We're going to go through a little bit of meeting etiquette. We'll have a presentation on the purpose of this trail plan, and we'll get into the existing conditions a little bit. We'll review the results of a stakeholder interview process that we did, just by a little summary. We'll have some time for participation. The committee has worked on values, vision, and goals, and that's a lot of what they want your input on tonight. And then we have an interactive mapping tool, and I'm going to give the group a tutorial on how to use it, because that's going to be the bulk of your participation. And you know, we're interested in obviously what you think about the values, vision, and goals, but also you're all trail experts in your own community, and we want to know what you think via this interactive mapping tool that we have. So we'll get to that at the very end. And then we'll talk about what's next, okay? All right, meeting etiquette. Please keep your microphone muted. That helps keep the background noise to a minimum. Those who have your cameras on, that's okay right now. I bet we'll get 100 people on here tonight. If we try to limit our bandwidth, that helps keep the meeting running smoothly. But if you have something to say, please, when we get to the interactive portion and you speak, please don't hesitate to turn your camera on. It's good to see your faces. You'll have the opportunity to provide comments and ask questions at specific times during the presentation. I'm not going to be monitoring the chat except for specific times during the presentation, okay? Currently, I want you all to know that you can only chat with me, but there will be times during the presentation where I will make the chat public, and we'll use that as an interactive tool, okay? I do have, this meeting is being recorded, so please keep that in mind. So both the video portion as well as what happens in the chat is being recorded. Okay. All right. I like to test the tools that we're going to use at the beginning because I want to make sure you are all comfortable using them. So we're going to do 2 test polls, okay? You should see it on your screen right now. If for any reason you don't, you might need to deal with a pop-up blocker. Did you use a Girdwood trail or natural space today? I'll give you about 10 more seconds. All right. I love it. 68% of you, 48 of you used a trail or a natural space today. 10 of you didn't, and 13 wanted to but didn't. I fell in that category today as well. I just didn't get outside, but. Okay. If you didn't find the poll the first time, you get one more chance. What did you do on the trail today? Keep them coming. All right, I'll give you about 5 more seconds. All right. "41% of you went for a walk. 7% of you went for a run. 23% skiing, 16% biking. 1% geocache. I almost didn't put that in there. And then 8 of you did something else. Okay. When we get into the actual exercises, I'll open it up for discussion afterwards. So we'll get to engage a little bit after we do these polls. So be prepared for that. The last thing I want you to do is I want you to find your chat box. Send me a message. Where are you writing in from today? I just want to make sure everybody has access to your chat. Okay, cool. Perfect. All right. Everybody found it. Hello. Okay, it's good to see you out there. You're funny. I'm turning off the annotation tools tonight, just so you know. Okay. All right, diving in. Thanks for getting through the nuts and bolts with me. It just makes sure everybody knows what we're doing. I have to admit, the first part of this is going to be me doing a lot of talking. So hold on one second.
Sorry, Holly.
It's all right. I'm just going to clear it out, okay? It actually makes me laugh. Okay. All right. So what I want to say is that the first part of the meeting is going to be me doing a lot of talking, the first half of the meeting. The second half of the meeting is when we'll do most of the interaction. So I'll try to stop at certain parts and let you ask questions so we don't get too far along before those questions, so they don't go by, okay? So what is this Girdwood Trails Plan? What is the purpose? Why are we doing it? The purpose of this plan is to establish a 15 to 20-year plan to develop, protect, and promote Girdwood's network of trails and natural spaces for current and future generations. Okay. I added this slide in because it's important to understand the context of why this plan is important and where it fits within the other planning documents in your city, in Girdwood, right? So why are there so many plans? There's a lot of planning happening in the Girdwood Valley right now. And first of all is the Girdwood Area Plan. So those of you who attended the Girdwood Area Plan meeting last week, you would have seen this same graphic. So the Girdwood Area Plan gives overall policy direction, mostly for land use, but other policy items as well. And that gives overall policy direction for land use and planning in the valley. And what it really does is it manages how the community wants to see growth. Okay, underneath the Girdwood Area Plan are other plans. And so the first one I'm going to talk about is an area-specific plan. So area-specific plans provide more detail for smaller segments of your community. An example of that would be the Girdwood South Townsite Area Master Plan. Okay. So another type of plan just to the left there is what we'll call a functional plan. And the Girdwood Trails Plan, this plan that we're talking about tonight, is what they call a functional plan. So instead of being a smaller specific area, it's also an area-wide plan, like the Girdwood area plan, but it provides more specific direction for maybe a specific facility, right? So trails or streets or wetlands or utilities, those sorts of things. So the Girdwood Trails Plan, what we're talking about tonight, is a functional plan. So then underneath those sorts of plans are what you call implementation plans, things that really get into more action. And the Girdwood Trails Committee has spent a lot of time developing the Girdwood Valley Trails Management Plan. And the Trails Management Plan is more of an implementation or an action plan, okay? And then below, another form of implementation is code, Anchorage Municipal Code. Title 21, Chapter 9 is the code specific to Girdwood. And so those are the sorts of things that define design guidelines and code and those sorts of things. And that is also specific for trails and how you build trails. So another implementation item is what would be a capital improvement, your specific trail projects. So specific trail projects that are funded, designed, and constructed are part of the capital improvement. So I just thought it was important to show this because there's a lot of planning happening in the Valley, but also because it's important to show that if you want a project, a specific trail project to happen in your community, it's part of a larger framework of planning that happens. And it's in order to ensure that the policy and the vision and goals that are defined in a comprehensive plan that manages growth and community character and the quality of life that everybody wants, that the community visions for Girdwood is implemented through all of these hierarchy of plans. So within that framework, the Girdwood Trails Plan is your guiding visionary document for how you manage trails in the Valley. Okay. All right. So I guess I'm going to stop there. Not for too long, though. I want to ask if there's any questions related to that. No comments at this point, just questions. Anybody have a question? And you can raise your hand if you do. All right. Okay, I'm going to move on. I'm going to keep us going. Okay. So physical conditions of the trails. There's over 50 miles of trails in the Girdwood Valley. Actually, close to 60. And right now, we're not, this plan will start, right now we're not hashing hairs over what trail is on whose land. We're just kind of taking inventory of what is available in the Valley. So there's more than 50 right now. What we're going to show you is probably close to 60. Existing trails offer a variety of different uses with increasing demand for more trails, natural spaces, and trail access. Girdwood's trails and natural spaces have world-class potential. With intentional planning, additional connections, and signage, a more cohesive experience can be created. You're going to hear us talk about natural spaces a lot tonight, and I just wanted to let you know what that means for us right now is that natural spaces are lands that remain entirely or predominantly in their natural space, in their natural state. That does not mean there's not trails on those lands, but natural space, that's how we're referring to natural spaces. Also, soils, topography, and climate are factors that will drive future trail planning and sustainable trail development. Okay, so the existing trail system. You're not going to be able to get into all this tonight, right? There's a lot of information here. You're just going to start seeing how we're starting to catalog and analyze the trails that are there. This presentation will be on a website that you'll have access to, and you'll be able to get into all the details of what this says on your own time. In addition, the web application that we'll show you later has these trails all named and located. So don't worry about losing this information yet. But I just wanted to show this map to start so that you start understanding that we're starting to take inventory of what's there. At some point, you'll start to see the resort area trails show up on the map. There wasn't any GIS data specifically for the resort area trails that was easy to access, but that will start showing up as well. The other thing that you should start thinking about is winter versus summer. The subcommittee working on the master plan will start really getting into the details of winter versus summer trails. But at this point, you can define a winter trail as a trail that likely goes through wetlands and is only accessible in the wintertime. And right now that would be a trail like number 17, which is Moose Meadow Trails, or Stumpy's Winter Route, which is number 27. Okay. So, but also keep in mind there are trails that have summer and winter designations that are accessible both times of year. It's just that their use will change. Okay. Another way we think about trails is, and this isn't new thinking for the Girdwood Valley. The Girdwood Trails Committee uses this trails classification system in the current Girdwood Valley Trail Management Plan. And this is a trail classification system that is consistent with how the United States Forest Service classifies and manages trails on federal lands. So as we get deeper into the planning process, and you'll hear me talk a lot about trail inventory, and what that means is we're kind of defining the broad range of trail experiences that are available to everyone. Because in a public system, there should be a range of experiences available. So when we start thinking about the trail inventory in the Girdwood Valley, we're going to be talking about Trail Class 1 through Trail Class 5. So Trail Class 1 would be minimally developed, and Trail Class 5 would be fully developed. And so these are images of local Girdwood trails that would characterize these Class 1, Class 2, Class 3, Class 4, Class 5. So Class 5 here, this would be Bird to Gird. This is the newly renovated Lower Iditarod Trail, Trail Class 4. Trail Class 3, this is a portion of the Winter Creek Trail. Trail Class 2, Abe's Trail. And actually, I do have to say that this Trail Class 1, I think, is maybe not a Girdwood specific trail. But this is very characteristic of a Class 1. Minimally developed, lots of wayfinding, tread may be apparent, maybe not. So just so everyone is aware that this is what we're talking about, and you can refer to this as the trail plan continues through the next 6 months. Okay. So, you know, diving a more deeper into the details. The Girdwood Trails Committee has spent a lot of time thinking about the existing trails and how they're classified. And the yellow here means that the trail class is different than the existing condition. So when the trail classification, this is also an important concept to remember, is it doesn't always have to be what's existing. When you classify a trail, you're also saying, this is what we want the trail to be. So it's likely that when you classify a trail, you may need to either do trail upgrades to it or trail restoration projects to it to either bring it up to the class that you've identified it as or bring it down to one that you want it to be for restoration purposes. So in the existing classifications that are currently approved in the Girdwood Valley Trails Management Plan, this is what we're looking at. Oh yeah, I didn't change that. these two here are also Mount Alyeska, which is actually, Kyle, what did you call that trail today?
Well, Center Ridge, the head wall, the Max's,
Head
so
wall.
the head wall trail.
Yeah. Okay. And then the new trails that the Girdwood Mountain Biking Alliance has constructed, those two have not been classified yet. So this plan will likely make a recommendation for, and I'm sure that the Girdwood Mountain Biking Alliance has their own trail prescription for what that class should be. Okay. So looking at your supply, so I keep talking about providing a range of experiences that's consistent with a community vision for trails. This is what you have for these 59 miles here. Now, remember, the resort trails aren't added into this yet, okay? But this is what you have. You have about 8.7 miles of class 1, 17.2 of class 2, just over 11 of class 3, 9.5 of class 4, and 12.35 of class 5. So when you imagine things like community accessibility, or like who has access to trails, whether it's strollers or people with accessibility challenges, or if it's experiential based, people who want a more wilderness experience or a more rugged experience. When we're working through the vision, the values and vision and goals, we want to be thinking about our existing inventory now so that we understand what we have, right? So that when we move to the future, and that'll be the next meeting, but when we move to the future and what we want to see, that we're going to build a trail classification matrix just like this that reflects the community values, vision, and goals, okay? All right, this one is a little harder to dive into. I made it simpler rather than, because this can get really detailed, but there's always, when you're working through community trail plans, we also need to figure out use, right? So is there a desire for single-use, purpose-built trails? Does that exist in the community? And also, how much is available? Can everybody do what they want to do? That's basically what we're trying to get at here. So what you have now is you have over 46 miles, again, in that 60 miles of multi-use trails. So that means they're open to a lot of people, not probably a lot of restrictions. Hiking only in the summer, 8.5 miles. Nordic skiing only in the winter, 3.4 miles. So Nordic skiing only in the winter, that would be an example of a single-use purpose-built trail. Same with mountain bike only in the summer. Less than a mile, 0.9 miles, and those would be the new trails built by the Girdwood Mountain Bike Alliance. Okay, land ownership. This slide is not news to some people, but sometimes it is news to others. The land ownership in the Girdwood Valley presents, I think, unique opportunities, but also challenges for the trail system. Multiple landowners, it's quite complicated. And I think for people who just want to use trails or build trails, it makes agency and decision-making and project authorizations, it's just different. It's different from agency to agency. So the complexity of land ownership in Girdwood requires a higher level of public collaboration and agency collaboration during trail planning and management. So I guess what I think it's important to show here is that many of you know the majority of the land in the Girdwood Valley is owned by the Heritage Land Bank. So this lightish blue color here is the Heritage Land Bank property, and there's lots of public trails There's lots of public trails traversing the Heritage Land Bank property. Green, there's a lot less green. This is your public park. This is your public parkland. The other thing, this is the airport, State of Alaska Department of Transportation. This is DNR land here. This is the resort, but it's a lease. These parcels that don't have color on them are private parcels. Again, you have the state park, Chugach National Forest. And you see that your public trail system traverses the whole valley. And I think that's awesome. That's what a community wants, right? You want your community to be connected via active transportation systems, both in your built infrastructure, to your residences, to the places that you go to every day, your everyday destinations, but also the wildlands, the places there where you want to experience less development. So it's important to understand this land ownership structure. And it's also important to understand that although we are looking at your trail system, you know, we're crossing boundaries. We're going to start counting trails that are not on municipally owned and managed lands. But it's important to understand, though, that this plan really does only have authority on municipally managed and owned lands. So even though we're taking we're analyzing all of it, just remember that. That's not to say that your neighbors, like the Forest Service and the state park, that they don't listen to what plans like this say. They absolutely do. But this document will be have authority over municipally managed lands. Okay. All right, access, trailheads, and parking. So the trail management plan states that identifiable trailheads with adjacent sufficient parking should be provided for each trail. Parking and trailhead access within Girdwood have become more difficult as visitors who come to Girdwood arrive by car and love your trails, and trailhead situations have been challenging from a parking perspective. In addition, winter snow storage further complicates that, making parking areas smaller. I mean, we deal with that everywhere, right? But it's a particular challenge for the trailhead. So here's your parking supply, okay? And again, I'll go through these quickly and you'll have this later to peruse over. I've numbered them going from south to north. So we're just going to start with the Alaska Railroad Depot. There's about 20 to 30 spaces there. It was hard for me to understand what was going on there this summer because there was no trains or tourists or, you know, so looked like a big empty lot most of the time this summer, but 20 to 30 spaces there at the Alaska Railroad Depot. And then right across the way there, P2, is the Chugach Glacier District Ranger Station. 16 spaces plus 2 accessible. Now, I'm not sure all of those are available for trailhead parking all the time. I think they have actual business to do there, but that's the supply that's there. Virgin Creek Falls. We all know this is maybe a challenging place in a residential neighborhood for one of the most popular short trails in the area. People love this. Lots of impacts to the neighborhood, lots of impacts to the trail. 9 to 12 spaces in the roadway, and that's this picture right here on the top. Beaver Pond, 16 unmarked spaces in the roadway. Moose Meadows and the Alyeska Playfield, 10 to 12 spaces. Arlberg Road, 20 spaces plus 1 accessible. Not this picture here. I've seen that. This was a sunny day in August, overflowing. I'm sure that happens in the winter as well. Middle Iditarod, 4 to 6 spaces. And then there's 20 plus 1 accessible at the Winter Creek Hand Tram up here. Okay, so sorry, I stopped going along with the map, but again, Moose Meadows, P6, Arlberg, P7, Middle Iditarod, Town Center, and Beaver Pond. So, and I am going to note that, I mean, this is obvious, right? Well, Alyeska Resort has large parking lots. We can't at this time assume that public use will always be available at those lots. I'm also, from a planning perspective, I'm not sure that we will be allowed to use those to fulfill the demand for parking for certain trail uses. So just keep that in mind. That's going to be a thing we continue to talk about, I'm sure. Okay, signage and wayfinding. Different landowners and management at trailheads throughout the system. So that means that wayfinding isn't consistent in appearance or with the information provided. I think it does lead to some confusion for trail users. And we have heard that it is likely important to consider strategic ways to reduce sign clutter. Okay, so in addition to a subcommittee of the Girdwood Trails Committee that has been working on this plan, there was also a series of about 10 stakeholder interviews with a variety of trail users that both represent organizations like the Nordic Ski Club or the Girdwood Mountain Bike Alliance. There were also stakeholders who didn't represent any organization. There were commercial outfitters, and there were landowners and agencies, and we had an hour-long interview with each of these 10 different people and organizations. And these are some of the common themes that came out of that process. Girdwood is a trail town, and residents value access to trail and natural space-based recreation. The Girdwood Trail and Natural Space system should be equitable and balanced. Access was important to everybody, both continuing to provide and improve. Maintenance was very important to everyone. Connectivity between existing trails, but also community facilities and places that you go to every day. And then project approval processes. As people have ideas for projects, it was clear that people wanted to understand more clearly how to get things built and how to get things done, or how to envision the place they wanted. Okay. So in addition to the themes that rose out of those interviews, there were also some priority projects that started rising to the top that were also thematic in a way. Hand tram, absolutely number one on everybody's list. Everybody talked about it. And by hand tram, I think what we heard mostly was providing an alternative to, so that we improve connectivity across the Glacier Creek at that or a similar location. Virgin Creek Trailhead, you already heard me talk about that. Another priority hotspot, I guess we'll talk about it. Max's Mountain, Iditarod Trail improvements, Winter Creek improvements, continuing to develop, Girdwood Mountain Bike Alliance trail development. We heard that there was priorities to dedicate areas for natural space, increased connectivity between existing trails like Abe's Trail and California Creek Trail. Upgrades to Wagon Trail was identified as a priority, and then continued maintenance and improvements on Beaver Pond. Okay, before we dive into this, I guess I want to see if anybody has any questions about what has been presented so far. Okay, I'll dive right in. Okay, so the subcommittee went through a process and it was kind of a stepped process to think about values, vision, and goals, and starting with core values, okay? Core values are core principles that guide and direct work. They guide the decision-making and establish a standard against which actions can be assessed. So as we work through this plan, the committee has identified 8: access, health and well-being, experience, community identity, explore and learn, natural world, stewardship, diversity, and inclusivity. So those 8 core values were important to the subcommittee so far because it would set the stage and guide how the rest of the plan would move forward, so that as projects are identified, or as management decisions are made, or as policies are worked through, we constantly go back to these core values and say, okay, but is this consistent with our core value? So the committee is interested in what you all think about these 8 core values. Again, access, health and well-being, experience, community identity, explore and learn, natural world, stewardship, diversity, and inclusivity. So the first question I have for you is, it's going to be a poll. Do these values align with your values for trails and natural spaces in Girdwood? And I'll answer this question live. These are not listed in any priority. Okay. Give you about 15 more seconds. Okay. All right. Okay. 80 of you made a choice. 77 of you said yes. 3 of you said no. Okay. So 96% say yes, 4% say no. So what I want to ask next is, and I guess there were only 3 of you, so we can do it this way. If you selected no, what values do not align with your values? So if you selected no, what values do not align with your values? And even if you did select yes, maybe there was something you didn't feel so great about. Okay. And just so you know, this is all, names aren't associated with this. So whatever you vote, I won't know. No one will know. Okay. Okay. Give you about 5 more seconds. Okay, so it looks like some of these values don't connect with, most all of these values don't connect with some people. And that, you know, that makes, there's 100 of us here and that's okay. It's just good that 100 people don't. agree with one of these things. That means we really got it wrong. So thank you for doing that. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the chat public. Okay. And here's the question I want to ask everyone. So the chat is public now. The question I want to ask you is, are there values you think are missing? And go ahead and put them in the chat. Recreation. Okay. Recreation. And make sure you click to show it publicly so that everybody can see what you're saying. So I'm hearing clearly that recreation is missing. Yeah, fun, absolutely. Economic development, tourism. Okay. Keep it coming. Discovery. Maintaining a connected, maintained trail system that encourages recreation and conservation. Experience, recreation and fun. Connectivity. Recognition of indigenous interests. Okay. Exercise, cultural history. I'm reading the ones that are coming through privately so that everybody can also see those. Okay. Thank you for sharing those things. Okay. So what the committee will do is the committee will take these things and rework, double check their work based on what we're hearing from a larger group of people. So thank you. Okay. So from these values then, the committee worked through a vision statement. And what we have here is, Girdwood aspires to create an interconnected, diverse, beautiful system of trails and natural spaces that well serve the community. Okay, so this will be another polling, okay? Does this vision statement, it's very similar. Does this vision statement align with your vision for Girdwood trails and natural spaces? Again, I'll say it again. Girdwood aspires to create an interconnected, diverse, beautiful system of trails and natural spaces that well serve the community. Yeah, and I guess I'll say here too is that I understand that there are lots of different ways that people like to participate. And if you don't want to chat publicly, that's absolutely fine. You can send me private chats that go to the host only that will become part of the record without your name on it. But that's important. If it's important for you to say something and you don't feel like sharing it publicly, that's okay too. I get it. Okay. I'll give you about 5 more seconds. Okay. So just over half of the people who voted, 59%, 51 of you say, yes, this vision statement aligns with your vision for Girdwood trails and natural spaces. 1 person says no, and a lot, 40% say kind of. And I'm going to open this up for discussion in 1 second. But what I want to ask first is, and let's put this one in the chat. Is there anything in the draft vision statement you would like to change or add? Mm-hmm. The word beautiful is too subjective. It's the first thing. Healthy trails through natural spaces. Okay, so then in addition to what you would like to change, and I guess I'm going to ask this because it seems to be mixing, is there something you think is missing? I'm hearing in the chat that economic development is missing. So I guess I'll also like to open it up for some discussion or question now about the vision statement. Does anybody have anything you want to share verbally out loud? That's okay. Not a. Go ahead, Justin.
So the vision statement just sort of sounds like we just want to connect what we already have.
Mm-hmm. I see what you're saying. Could you articulate maybe how you would envision, and it doesn't need to be, you don't need to change this one, maybe articulate a little bit more of your vision for how you would change that maybe.
Can I think about it a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. 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 That's great feedback. More action-oriented, balancing natural values and outdoor recreation economy. Go ahead, Mike.
So the diverse, abundant trails that Kaylee said, I mean, sounds like a good addition.
Okay, cool. Mike, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I speak a lot, so I think several people have said this, but the thing I'm kind of not comfortable about this is it's very inward looking. It's just us as a community, and really we have a world-class, or could have a world-class trail system. It's an asset to community, to visitors. It's an economic driver, et cetera, et cetera. There needs to be something in there about that.
Cool. Thank you. Anyone else want to share anything you think about this? Okay.
I'll be brave. I think I like the person who put in the chat that the word aspire is maybe a little passive. So something that's a little bit more provocative. It's like, we're committed to, I put one in, committed to an let me see if I can find it. Girdwood is committed to creating a sustainable, interconnected, diverse, multi-use system of trails and natural spaces that well serve the community and its visitors. I think visitors and something pointing to our economy and growth. And I mean, even the role we play for Anchorage and the rest of South Central, we should definitely be looking beyond just ourselves as residents. I think something a little bit more powerful rather than we're aspiring to, like, let's do it. And then I like what somebody said about it doesn't need to be interconnected. So there is a certain diversity of, I think Sophie said steeps and jumps and, and great walking trails, whatever, like they don't necessarily have to connect. Although I don't think interconnected is a problem. And I think diverse captures a lot of what I I'm sort of alluding to.
Okay. All right. We're hearing a trend here, and that's good. All right. Anyone else want to participate or share? Marco?
Yes, I'm trying to start my video. I think also there's a number of governmental agencies, Forest Service, state parks. We should note something about aggressively interacting with them to help develop our trail system.
Okay.
Because they're a leading source of funding for some of the nicer trails that we have here.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you. All right. Okay. So then the committee took this vision statement and developed 5 goals that are actually way more get her done kind of goals. There's not specific projects within them yet, right? But there are 5 goals that kind of start organizing how the plan can come together. Goal 1, plan. Provide a balance and diversity of trail and natural area experiences that minimize user conflicts and are consistent with the Girdwood Area Plan and the Girdwood Valley Trail Management Plan. Okay, so goal 1 is planning. Goal 2, develop. Build sustainable trails. Build sustainable trails using a common set of design principles with a clear project approval process. Conserve. Identify, designate, and protect trails and natural spaces through proper processes. Goal 4, maintain. Trails and natural spaces are maintained for safety, the desired user experience, and to conserve natural resources. Goal 5, sustain. Provide adequate, oh, it's underneath my panel. Oh, shoot. Sorry, guys. Provide adequate funding, planning, support, and stewardship for trails and natural spaces. Okay, so I'm going to ask similar questions regarding these goals. Okay, so the first is going to be a poll, just like the last, and I'll give you more time because I know that there's a lot to go through there. Do these goals align with your goals for Girdwood trails and natural spaces? Yes, no, kind of. Again, plan, develop, conserve, maintain, sustain. Okay, I'll give you about 10 more seconds. I know there's a lot to get through on this slide. Okay. So 60% people say yes, 5% say no, and excuse me, 6% say no, 33% say kind of. Okay, so same thing here. We can I'm gonna open up the chat again. So same questions I want to ask you. Is there anything you would change or add? Is there anything that you think is missing? Does anybody have any questions or do you want to talk about it? especially, I guess maybe I'm wondering, for somebody who said no, that these goals do not align with your goals for Girdwood trails and natural spaces, do you want to share why they don't align? Go ahead, Jessica.
Hey, yeah, this is Jessica Zelak. I guess my thoughts on it are that these sound a lot like tactics. I'm thinking goals should be like build a world-class mountain bike network, be the #1 town in Alaska to hike from your front door. And then from that, there's how we do that we plan, develop, because, you know, we follow these certain tactics, but the goals should be pretty big and lofty and really inspiring.
Thank you. Go ahead, Kaylee.
Actually, I was going to say something similar to Jessica, in that I think what I'd like to see is either an additional goal or something that pushes it more to the loftier goal of having some economic development through recreational tourism. And I don't know, you know, how we put that into this, but I think that's the thing that's missing for me.
So also for those of you who said these kind of align with your goals, is there anyone that wants to share why? Like maybe some things resonate and some things don't. Yeah, and keep things coming in the chat too. Okay. Girdwood should have the best trail system in Alaska. Develop should include designating natural spaces. Maintain regular maintenance for safety. Mike?
Yeah, I summarized it as like another goal would be attract, if that's what we really want. I mean, maybe we do want it to keep it just for us, but I don't think that's the majority of the communities feel. And that implies a whole bunch of other things, you know, trailhead improvements, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, thank you. So it sounds to me like we need to, there's a lot of good input coming in. Sounds to me like we need to rework these a little bit. Okay. Jennifer?
Yes, I don't know that the goals necessarily need to be reworked. These are not strategic plans. These are not necessarily specific objectives. These are broad goals that a strategic plan can be developed to achieve these goals. And so I think that they're very good broad goals that can fit a lot of people's needs. They're not the strategic plan. And so they can be expanded, but I think this is a good basis for things.
Mm-hmm. So I guess, can I follow that thread of thinking a little bit more? Do you have something in your mind that would then follow up on one of these goals, like to add more depth or the next thing? Did you have an example that you might want to share? No? Okay.
I do. I'm sorry. I was
Oh, that's
messing.
okay. Go for it.
Not behaving. No, what I mean with that is, so goal 2, develop, build sustainable trails using common set of design principles with clear project approval process. That's a goal that's fantastic. That goal to be then expanded into a strategic plan that has specific objectives. And that goal 2, develop Winter Creek Extension Trail that will be accessible to folks that are wheelchair bound. And I'm pulling these out of the air. This is not something I've thought about for a long period of time. Looking at sustain, adequate funding, planning support, and stewardship for trails and natural spaces to make sure that the trails that we do develop are something that can be followed by folks that don't necessarily have a lot of experience in Girdwood. And we'll also make sure that they're not going to destroy the natural spaces by creating cuts and a lot of social trails. And then, finally, everything that we're doing is going to improve how people access it, how people will participate. But if somebody gets hurt, we'll also be able to access them. My world is rescue. And so I think about what we're doing, that it makes it such that somebody will be able to be retrieved and we can find them. And I'll get off my soapbox.
Oh, thank you. I did that specifically because we're going to lead into the next activity, which I'm going to give you a tutorial. But so thinking about the values, vision, and goals, and it seems like we're close on the values, close but a little bit further away on the vision, and close on the goals, but they need to be worked out. Like, what does this actually mean, with a little adjustment? So thank you for all the input. Keep the input coming. I'm going to move on to the tutorial for the.
Hey, Holly, could I say something real quick?
Absolutely.
Regarding the goals, I think those should be more specific to how we're going to achieve our vision. Right now, as plan, develop, conserve, maintain, sustain, I see that as an action to how we develop more mountain bike trails, how we develop more hiking trails, how we develop more natural spaces. Whatever our vision is, we're going to achieve them by going through those 5 steps. But I think our goals need to be more specific. Develop progressive mountain bike trails with varying levels of ability to bring in both local Alaskans and make it a travel destination to boost the economy, things like that. But our goals need to be specific to our vision.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Shelley. Shelley?
Sorry, I just want to point out that in constructing these plans, it's very common for goals to be very general. Under that, you're going to have strategies and tactics. And that is where you'll see the specificity generally. Holly, you can tell me if that's how we intend to proceed or not.
Yeah, so I'm gonna move us along to the interactive mapping tool, because this is where, so we've been working with a smaller committee of people, and we've heard a lot from the Girdwood Trails Committee, but now we want to hear what you want, right? So, and there's 2 things that I want to have happen here. So we want your ideas. The committee wants your ideas. Do you have ideas for trails and natural spaces in Girdwood? Do you want a new trail? Do you want to improve an existing trail? Is there a place that's special to you? Is there an activity that you want to do that you can't do here? So we're trying to generate ideas, and to just say what Shelley said, like, these are the kind of ideas that will start filling in with the goals to make them more specific, right? Will start to be the real meat of the plan. So my colleague Leah, I'm gonna make this public again. Leah, don't do it yet, because I don't want people to go to the mapping application until I show them how to do it. But you're gonna have 1 month. You're gonna have 1 month to play with this mapping application, okay? And this is how we are, actually I'm gonna share a different screen. No. Sorry, guys. Okay. So My computer's acting up. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so I'm just going to go for it. So what we would normally do, thank you for your patience. What we would normally do in non-pandemic times is we would get in a room together and we would sit around a bunch of maps and we would have a community conversation and we would have small group conversations about your trail system. We would talk about what you like, what you don't like. We would talk about your ideas and it would be fun. You know, we'd get to draw on maps, right? Because we can't do that right now, we've developed an online web application that we can all do this collectively. So you can use this interactive map to provide valuable input into the project. So it's going to be open until December 21st of 2020. Okay, so you're going to have time to think about it, or you can do it right away, or you can come back and see what everybody else did. So this box will always be available to you to show you the directions on how to do this, okay? But I'm going to also show you how to do it, and you'll all figure it out. You click the edit icon at the top of the screen. You select the type of comment that you would like to add. There's a bunch of different icons, so you can add basically a point feature. You can also add a line feature, and we'll get to what those are in a minute. Once you select the icon, you click it on the map, and then you can enter information about what the idea is. You can also add a picture if you want. We're giving you guys lots of freedom here. Okay, so a couple of things you need to know about this. So here's the valley with the same set of trails. Looks like I know who, I had a tester. I know who did that one. So you have 5 little icons up here. If you want to get the directions back, you click the eye. Those are the instructions again if you need to see them. Okay. The other thing is that we've provided some additional resources to help you make decisions if you want them. This is what, if you hover over it, it's the layers list. Okay, so there's the trails on here. But if you wanted to, you could add the avalanche zones. You could add wetlands. And those are those gray. I didn't want them getting in the way too much. But you can add those to help you make decisions or to see where things are, right? So if you want to add a feature, it's this it's this edit box on the right. So the kind of features you can add a natural space, and that would be a polygon feature. So you would draw a box. There are pins you can drop, and we've provided a few: signage, parking, improved parking, trail improvement needed, add lighting, connection needed, safety concern, bathroom. Or here's this purple star, which means you can add your own idea. So if there's something here that you don't see, you can add your own idea. You can also add a line. You can add a comment by dropping a line. So if you want to draw trails, you can do that too. And there's different ones you can build. Connection needed, build a new trail, or add your own idea. So I'll add my own idea. Okay, so you click on the thing you want to add, and then you click on the map. And I'm just going to add it over here so that I don't mess with everybody, and I'll tell you why later. So you click over here, and then you just say what you want. I want to hike here, or I think there should be a light here. I mean, obviously I don't, but you know what I mean. And then if for whatever reason, like maybe you said, maybe this is the trail condition here is awful. You can also, maybe you have a picture of it and you want to show the project team what that is. Before anyone clicks on that link, I have a couple more things to tell you, so don't do it yet. Here's what I want to show you. You can also add a picture, okay? So you can add a picture and that will go to us. All right, so here's what you need to know. We've set it so that you cannot delete what you've added, even though, so if you make a mistake, you're gonna make a mistake and it's on there forever. And that's okay, because we're gonna go and we're gonna clean it up every day. Because the reason I did that is because there's not a, you could delete everybody's stuff too. We don't want you going in and deleting everybody's stuff. So, new trails, improve existing trails. Those are the kind of things, like all these things that we've talked about. We want to know your ideas. But again, keep in mind, we want this information in the context of your goals, the values we've talked about, and the vision. And I understand that those aren't quite right, but I know that you have a vision and goals for how you envision the future of Girdwood Trails in the Valley. And that's what we want to start thinking about as you put things on the map here. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? So two things. Leah, can you put the short link in the chat box for me, please? And in addition to that, if you lose this, we're also going to have the presentation and all the meeting materials on the GBOS website. And can you put that in the box as well? Okay. Any questions? Questions? Are you going to do it? You're going to do it, right? Go ahead, Barbara.
I'm just wondering, if somebody's already marked something on the map that you want, do you still mark it again? Because I'm thinking it would be good to have some way of evaluating 10 people want this thing or 100 people want this thing, so that there's a way of picking and choosing what our priorities are.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fine to be duplicative. If somebody has put something on the map, you can also put something on the map. It's okay, but we need to keep in mind, like, this isn't voting. It's not like if 10 people say one thing and 9 people say another thing, that, you know, it's just that it's a way for us to start to see trends. And that's really helpful. So thanks for bringing that up, Barbara. I had a question about if your name is attached to the input, and I don't believe it is. I think it's your IP address. Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead, Deb.
Are topo lines, can that be an added layer on this map?
I can try. I have a feeling the file size will be too big and it'll slow it down. But if you can see, I did use the relief base map, so you can see elevation a little bit from the relief layer, but I'll try, Deb, but I really think it's going to be too big.
Okay, thanks. I can find it elsewhere too. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Go ahead, Kyle.
So just so that people are aware, the goal is to save the input each day so that we see the different ideas coming in. And we realize as we get later into the month, we'll probably get less input, but at least the files will be saved as we see input come in from the previous 24 hours. So that would be the goal here.
Yeah, and it's live now, so you can start tonight.
And the other aspect about it too is if you need help on the instructions, my number is there. So if you want to call, I can give you a walkthrough on this. And if you're having trouble getting stuff in and you want me to help you, I can put it in for you too. So as well, if there's comments that you like to leave that you think of after tonight, it will be posted on the website and you can send comment to me and I'll share that with Holly and the group as it comes in.
Yeah. So your only way to participate is not just via this map. You can get in touch with us as well. I'm sure, and you can attend subcommittee meetings. You can do that. So again, interactive web mapping application by December 21st. We'll be looking at it daily. Any other questions before I move on? And it's okay to come back, I guess, but I want to talk about what's next. Okay. So through the end of December, we'll finish visioning and existing conditions. And then in January, in February of 2021, we'll start developing the draft plan. The goal would be then to have a draft plan to share back with the larger community via a public meeting in March. And that would launch an official public comment period on a complete draft plan. So that then the plan can start moving through your local community review processes, including the Trails Committee, the Board of Supervisors, Heritage Land Bank, Planning and Zoning Commission, and then you'll have a final master plan. And the goal is to move pretty quickly to have that process happen in the spring, April and May, so that by the summer, you can start working on projects, funding, design, construction, and using the trails. So any question about what's next? Okay, if you want to be involved on a deeper level than just participating in the public meetings, the Trail Plan Subcommittee is meeting monthly. They meet the 90 minutes before the Girdwood Trails Committee, and that is the first Tuesday of the month generally. So there's a lot of nuts and bolts type discussions and very detailed discussions that happen at those committee meetings. And the committee, you know, it's a committee. They follow the rules of the Open Meetings Act, but there's public participation generally as part of those meetings. So if you want to be involved at a deeper level, I would suggest attending the Trail Subcommittee, the Master Plan Subcommittee meetings. Okay, any other questions? Does anybody want to have any other comments for discussion? Kyle, I guess I'll let you wrap it up. Would you like to
Holly,
do that?
would you be able to pull up the GBOS website?
Yes, I can do that.
So after this meeting, we will post the recording of this meeting to the GBOS website, plus the PDF version of this presentation. And then also the link here to the interactive map. And you can see it right here under Girdwood Trails Plan Virtual Public Meeting. We'll remove all the information about the Zoom since that has been completed, but if you go down, you'll see here, we'll clearly mark this up right underneath it. It says view the trail plan presentation and view and add your thoughts to the interactive plan. And then there'll be a link to the YouTube of this presentation. So for those who couldn't partake tonight, please share it with them. They can learn that way. And then there'll also be information on how to contact me and my email, especially of those who maybe didn't be able to give comment related to the comments that we were seeking on the vision, goals, and values. So yeah, please get interactive. And I really want to say thank you to everybody for showing up tonight. We ended up with over 100 people who partook. That's a great turnout on a Thursday night. We appreciate you giving us your evening and your time. Luckily, you can do it from the comfort of your homes and be able to get it done. So thank you.
So one final question I think I'll have you answer, Kyle, is can you tell people how to get on Margaret's email list?
Yes. Yep. Scroll to the top there. And you can, oh yes, so if you see there, right there, right below Girdwood Board of Supervisors, you go down, sign up to receive monthly meeting materials via email, and you can sign up for all the committees, or you can sign up for right there, just right under
here.
Emergency 911. You can sign up for the individual or all of them. So if you're rooting for punishment and want to get involved with all their committees, you can sign up for all of them or do a la carte.
Okay, so Elliot, you specifically asked this question. If you sign up for the Girdwood Trails Committee here, you'll get the link to the future meetings that happen. That's how you'll get the Zoom link for these next meetings. Okay.
Correct. And they will come via MailChimp, and usually they will include the agenda and the past minutes and the meeting packet for that meeting.
Okay. Any other questions? I put the link in for you to be able to sign up, Elliot. Okay. Anything else?
Going once.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That was a good short.
Thanks, Holly.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Good night, all.